are at favorable vulnerability. I'll give you the same auction. So there you are. 2 little spades, 2 little hearts, king, queen, 4th of diamonds, and 5 clubs to the ace. Are you interested in balancing with this hand? Or do you just want to sell out to 2 hearts? All right. Barry says we should balance. So then the next question is how? All right, if you balance with a double, your partner's going to bid spades. And you have 2 small. I don't think you want to put partner in 2 spades. If partner had a decent hand with spade length, we might have already heard a 2 spade bid earlier in the auction, right? So we don't think partner can have that. Clubs are your long suit. So if you bid 3 clubs, partner had a singleton club but had 4 or 5 diamonds, you'd be pretty bummed out, right? If you had to play 3 clubs in that situation. Jan's got a bid.
I cheated, I read.
You do have a way that you can show this in. Well, Michael's is a dreaded Q bid. That would have happened earlier in the auction. However, we can do this. Yeah, it's basically like unusual. It's just not a jump bid in this situation. And so hopefully partner will know that this has got to be, hopefully you discussed it, otherwise you might not do it, but this can't be a strong hand, right? This can't be a strong balanced hand. Wouldn't we have heard from you after 1 heart if you had a real no trump hand? And so this fits in with a theme that I hope you will start to pick up on that is mentioned on your list there of points for competing, and that is that a bid of 2 no trump in a competitive auction is almost never natural. I mean, I can almost say never. I mean, the idea of the hands where you would want 2 no to be natural are so rare that it's much better used to show different types of 2 suitors. Some of you were at, well, I know Charlie was, but anybody else out at Robert Todd's workshops? Joanne, yes. So one of the things that Robert has said this for years and years, and I thought it was a very good way of putting it. He says, 2 no trump's not a contract, it's a convention. I mean, even when you play 2 no trump, like you open 1 no and partner raises you to 2. You know, we hate this contract, right? Because either 2 no fails or it makes 3. It never takes exactly 8 tricks. Either, I mean, you're that close, you're very close to game. Either you get a bad lie of the cards and 2 no fails, or you get a good lie of the cards and you take 9 tricks. And so that's the genesis. Of course, we start with things like Jacoby 2 no that are obvious conventional agreements. But then a lot of these other competitive auctions, we like 2 no to be a competitive tool, because even if we had a hard stopper, we would never want to play 2 no. With half the deck, it would be a terrible proposition. It would be a terrible contract. Even if you have 2 stoppers in their suit, they will lead it twice, they will get it set up, they will have winners and outside suits, and now here comes hard. All right. So this should be partner pick a minor on this auction. Because if spades were in the picture, you would balance with a double instead, right? You wouldn't ever bypass, you wouldn't take 2 spades away from partner if it were a playable spot, right? Even if you had only 3 spades, right? What if we gave you a singleton heart and gave you 3 spades? Now you should probably balance with a double. Even though your spades aren't great, partner might be able to bid 2 spades and you don't have to go to the 3 level, right? But once we have removed, that as a very realistic possibility, you want to play in a minor. And rather than being unilateral and picking 3 clubs on a suit that has just the ace but no other honors in it, why not let partner pick a minor? All right. it's not really a convention. Gene would probably say, I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. If you're not, if you're not sure, you can always say no agreement. Like this, and this is one of the things. Regular partnerships and experienced players can field these sorts of things, but I would be very careful about throwing something like that at a partner that I hadn't discussed it with, or that hadn't been exposed to it, because as obvious as it may seem from your side, you may be saying to yourself, well, geez, I've never been before, I can't really, and then your partner passes you a 2-no thinking you want to play it there, right? And I see this sort of thing happen, and you say, well, partner, this can't be natural, why would you pass? Do something, bid something. But you have to be careful with these things, right?
So Kurt, this is not on the convention card anywhere?
No.
Okay.
And in fact, it's not even alertable. It's got to be some kind of 2-suited takeout, and I think we can determine that in this case it's specifically the minors, or you would not have removed 2 spades as a possible contract. So yeah, this is more of a kind of going through the logic. I want to say a few things about preamps. Does anybody have any more burning questions about balancing? So when you make preemptive bids, and we include in this group, week 2 bids, preemptive openings at the 3 level, preemptive openings at the 4 level. We have these rules that we typically follow, right? We've got a high card point range on our week 2s usually, and we know that to typically be a 6-card suit, right? When we preempt at the 3 level, we normally expect that to be a 7-card suit. And again, a hand not good enough to have opened at the 1 level. We don't want your preempts to be too good. And then if we preempt at the 4 level, that tends to be an 8-card suit. There is a little gadget that is kind of useful. Has anybody heard of the rule of 2, 3, and 4? You may have come across it. It's not a bad guideline. So you can actually deviate a little bit on your preempts based on the vulnerability. What the rule basically says, still does, is that whenever you make any kind of preemptive bid, if you are at unfavorable vulnerability, you should be within 2 tricks of your bid. Now, of course, we know nothing about partner's hand, right? We have no idea what kind of help partner would supply. So, for example, let's take this hand. Now, your suit does not have to be that good to open 2 spades for me. I think you could have just ace king or king queen 10, or it doesn't have to be a practically solid suit. Certainly fine to open 2 spades, vulnerable or not, with that good of a suit. But let's say you are at unfavorable. How many tricks do you probably have with that? 6, right? Unless something really bad happens in the spade suit, that's 6 tricks. So if you contract for 8, you have followed the rule of 2, right? You are within 2 tricks of your bid. A 2-spade contract would require 8 tricks, you have 6 of them. would you think about preempting 3 spades with that hand instead of 2? What if the vulnerability were different? So that's where we're talking about. And I'm not saying you have to exactly follow the rule of 2, 3, 4. But let's say you chose to open 3 spades. Now you are not within 2 tricks of your bid, you're 3 tricks from your bid, right? Theoretically, you can do that at equal vulnerability, but certainly at favorable vulnerability. By the way, I don't think I'd open 4 spades with that hand, even at favorable vulnerability. That's probably pushing it a little too much. Even if the rule of 2, 3, and 4 says that your six tricks are within 4 tricks of a 4 spade contract, that's probably a little bit aggressive. So you don't need to follow any rule blindly. I'm not suggesting that you specifically follow this rule. But if I'm at favorable vulnerability or possibly even equal, and I may also look at other factors like, did partner already pass? Am I in 3rd seat? Pass? Well, I could open 2 spades. That would be the normal thing to do. Would I open 3? Really put some pressure on my left-hand opponent who may have a very good hand? Consideration. What if I changed it a little bit? Do the opponents have a heart fit? It's starting to look that way, isn't it? The more spades you bid, the more effective it is. Because if they want to bid hearts, they've got to go up 1 more level. You're the lucky one, you get the boss suit. You get to control the level of bidding. Like I said, I think 4 spades is a little rich regardless of the vulnerability, but I definitely like 3 spades at anything other than unfavorable.
With either hand, whether you have.
With either, but in particular with this one. Again, I'm thinking, because my thought is, look, if they want to bid hearts, they're going to do it at the 4 level. That's my feeling about this game. Now, sometimes you end up playing there, not doubled or anything like that. Partner puts down a singleton spade, and then partner has, like 5 hearts to the king jack or something like that. And you're like, they didn't have a heart fit. I preempted my partner, not the opponents. Okay, well, that comes with the territory. There's a little bit of risk there. But what you gain in eating up bidding space can be very valuable, really putting the pressure on the opponents. And there are other things we look at, when, your goals with preempt. I mean, you have a halfway decent suit, you get, maybe you get partner off to a lead that you want. So it can have lead directing value. Certainly, if partner were on lead, you'd like a spade lead. When the vulnerability is right, this can suggest a good sacrifice. Not talking a whole lot about sacrifices today, but certainly an important part of match points. If you open 3 spades, let's say you're at favorable vulnerability and you choose 3 spades, and your left-hand opponent now bids 4 hearts. You make it easier for partner to make a good sacrifice at 4 spades. If your partner has no defense against hearts, but you have a spade fit, right? Now, they're going to think you have 7 of them when they make that decision, but your very good 6-card suit certainly looks like a 7-card suit. And so I think it's okay to treat it as such. Another question I usually like to ask when I talk about preempts, and it would get into, let's go ahead and put one example up here. Let's say you're at favorable vulnerability in 3rd seat, and we know that we're generally not accountable for our actions in 3rd seat at favorable vulnerability. Right? This is when you can get cute. I'm going to give you hearts instead of spades this time. But pass by partner is the dealer, pass by your right-hand opponent. do. All right, Randy says 2 hearts. You only have 5 of them. Is that okay? Yes. I generally don't like 5-card preempts if my hand is flat. Like I don't like if I'm 5-3-3-2 shape. I'm not a big fan of it. But if I have a singleton somewhere, I like it better. Could you open 1 heart light in 3rd seat, especially if we like play Drury or where we gadget where we can find out if partner open light? You could, but is that the most effective bid? Pretty easy for your left-hand opponent to overcall a spade or double when you bid 1 heart. They don't have to step out. So what about eating up a little more bidding space? Let's make them get in at the 2 level. It's a good lead director. Yeah, partner may raise you. Partner may be following the law of total tricks and have 3 hearts and raise you to 3 hearts. But it's going to be very hard, even when it's right, it's going to be very hard for the opponents to double you, even in 3 hearts. If partner, opposite a 3rd seat preempt, if partner ends up shooting out 4 hearts, then they've probably got a whole bunch of hearts and a singleton somewhere themselves, right? They've got a distributional hand, and all of a sudden this hand is looking like it's probably going to play pretty well. So it has a lot going for it. You don't have an opening hand and partner's already passed. I think you want to cater to, well, this is probably the opponent's hand. And so now you want to eat up bidding space and have your bidding be more obstructive than constructive.
So if you got, say, change that 3rd X on clubs to, say, a queen, then what would you do?
Now you're kind of in between. That queen may be a defensive card, so could you bid 2 hearts? Yeah, I mean, I can live with 2 heart or 1 heart here, either one. Like I said, as long as partner doesn't get too excited, as long as partner knows that you can have a very minimal, even light opening. It still could be that the opponents have a big spade fit, and the 2 hearts is going to be a little more effective at trying to keep the spades out of the auction. Never any guarantees, because it's always easier for them to bid spades over your hearts than vice versa. I can go either way with it. I think either is reasonable. Maybe if I'm vulnerable, 2 hearts. Maybe non-vulnerable, 1 heart. Could be that sort of thing. Yeah. All these things are judgment calls, and you'll get some right, and others you won't. And these are match point decisions that you have to make, and understand that some of them are going to be wrong, and that's okay. Just one board, right?
One board after another board.
Yeah. Yes. An avalanche of snowballs, zeros, right? I want to talk about just one last little concept here, and then be sure that I give you a chance to bid a few hands here. And this is, I just want to say a few things about penalty doubles. And in particular, penalty doubles of part scores. We see situations where, like I said, when the opponents are clearly sacrificing, right? And that might be an auction like this. So we open a spade and they get in with a preemptive 3 diamonds. And let's say the opponents are in favorable vulnerability. We're the side with the spades, and we're vulnerable and our opponents are not. So they bid 3 diamonds, partner bids a game. And by the way, that jump to 4 spades on that auction is not weak.